Hey, what's going on? This is Jason, and I want you to look over here at the slides because I am technically uninclined, and therefore I'm going to have to do slides on this page and read from this page. So if you want to read, go ahead and read. If you want to look at the slides, go ahead and look at the slides. But this is today's presentation on introductory concepts regarding mobility, chronic pain, and injury resilience. And so first, functional mobility. So all pain comes from a lack of strength. That lack of strength could be due to either neuromuscular dyskinesis, as we've talked about in the last little class we had, the last little video that you watched. Could be from tissue damage, which could be an imbalance that created a repetitive trauma to the tissue in the form of tears or something like that. Or it could be forces that are greater than the strength of the joint and the muscles that are creating that strength. And so we should know that strength is a component of mobility and mobility is a component of strength. So mobility, as in range of motion, combined with stabilization strength, the ability to coordinate those two things, creates what we call functional mobility, the ability to just function. If you ever seen anybody with hyper mobility, like local mobility, meaning hyper flexibility, they really don't have mobility because they don't have the strength to stabilize. So we can't classify mobility and flexibility as the exact same thing. So we have functional mobility, which is the ability to have the strength to move, whether under load or for the particular task at hand. I like to picture a shortstop trying to catch a ball way outside of his range of motion, and he pops out there and he catches that ball. Well, you need strength, you need coordination, you need agility, and that all combines in order to create the range of motion that you needed to put together to attain that task. All right. So next, the elements of dysfunctional mobility or dyskinesis. And there's two elements right there. There's one is what we call tissue restriction. And tissue restriction occurs in the form of trigger points, myofascial tension. You have that sometimes something feels tight. That's myofascial tension, or it might be myofascial tension that, feels tight, but yet it also has range of motion. So maybe range of motion isn't even inhibited. We have what we call fascial adhesion. A lot of times people will call that scar tissue. Not quite the same thing, but for all intents and purposes, it works for us. And then you have neurostrain. And this is referrals due to like trigger points, and so you feel that up in your neck. You have a trigger point up in here. A lot of people have, and then you're like, I feel tension up in here. You don't put them together, but it turns out if you press on here, it hurts more here. So that is what you call neurostrain. It's the referral that occurs due to a trigger point or a tissue restriction in another area. And then we have muscular inhibition, which is simply receiving a disconnect between the nervous system and the muscular system, meaning the nervous system isn't quite firing a particular muscle or muscle group. So it's not getting that coordination that we're looking for. And so the relationship between the two is that a lot of times muscular inhibition will end up causing tissue restriction in another area. And so, that's where we have that going on. And so what we'll have to do is we'll have to try to link that, we'll try to alleviate the restriction, and then we try to create new function or lack of inhibition. And then we go to, trying to coordinate the two. And so that also describes the holistic nature of functional mobility, which is our next one over here. The holistic nature of functional mobility is in that the you know, we kind of described that already over here. You know, you have a problem over here, but it refers to over here. Well, if that's happening in a whole area of the body or even between areas of the body, that's a holistic nature of functional mobility. You have a problem in the ankle, it goes to the knee, and then the knee goes to the hip, and then the hip goes to the back, and then the back goes to the shoulder. That's the holistic chain. Restorative strength training. Restorative strength training, or we could call it restorative strength and mobility training, is to try and coordinate all those things that we just talked about back into the pattern that they need to be for healthy movement. Typically with this, what we'll try to do is we'll try to first alleviate the tissue restriction, and then we'll try to recover the coordination patterns in order to eliminate muscular inhibition. And then we'll try to integrate everything into a pattern that is much more functional using restorative strength training. All of this is restorative strength training, but this is the corrective training you usually think of in terms of restorative strength training. Like, this might be bridges or planks or stuff like that. Training versus working out. Working out is typically used to describe something that is high energy intensive, or maybe high tension. Is another form of working out. Whereas training is intelligently taking an input into the body and then getting an output out. Sometimes they're the same thing, sometimes they're not. Training and working out are not necessarily the same things. What we focus on is intelligently putting input into the body in forms of stress of some kind, and then intelligently getting an output out. Working out is usually kind of throwing the spaghetti at the wall. So the input isn't so intelligent sometimes. Both are very valuable. Just we focused on one versus the other. And let's see. And that is it, folks. Thank you for joining us for today's lesson. Sorry about the screen and all that. It looks all over the place, but it's what I could do with the time I have available without having a stroke via my own frustration with technology. So thank you very much, and I'll see you on our next little class.